at Adopting Bitcoin in El Salvador. I have the pleasure with John Carvalho. How's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Very well. So I think one important aspect for any beginner that's starting to learn about Bitcoin is, but who can change the code, right? Could you maybe briefly explain how Bitcoin can change and how it cannot?
Well, there's kind of two perspectives to look at it from. On one hand, you have to run your own node. And the cool thing about running your own node is actually you decide all the rules and all the code. But most people that run nodes can't code. And and most people that can code are not qualified to audit and create Bitcoin code. So while you can technically change any of the rules you want, like you can actually go in your node on your computer, your Bitcoin Core node, for example, and you can change the amount of Bitcoin to 50 million instead of 21 million. You can change how many Bitcoins per block. You can change anything if you know how and where to find it. But if you change something that is a rule that already exists, then you will fork off of the network, and nobody will support they won't listen to you on the network, and you'll be on a new network. But you could change rules you could add rules, and this is mostly what people call a soft fork. So, that's one perspective, is from the user, what you run matters, and you define the rules, that you're enforcing the rules. So most of the users are just passively doing this. They're saying, I run this node that enforces these rules that are pre-baked, and I'm just enforcing them by running a node. But if you want to add new rules, or soft forks, or new features, you have to have the expertise. And there's a loose governance process for Bitcoin Core, which is one implementation of Bitcoin, where they use the GitHub repo for Bitcoin, and different developers can go in there and they can make requests to change certain code to add features. And then the community will discuss it, and eventually they'll come to some sort of rough consensus on things they want to put in the next version of Bitcoin Core. But Bitcoin Core isn't Bitcoin itself. You can have more than one implementation. So you sometimes will find arguments or disagreements about what should or shouldn't be. Like in 2017 when we had the blockchain wars. Currently we're having some arguments about RBF and ZeroConf. There's just always going to be tension when you're trying to change Bitcoin. And so generally I am a kind of promoter of being conservative when it comes to change, because when you combine these two perspectives I shared with you, you can see how developers kind of run the show while users don't know what the code is doing. And that's a very trusted process, and Bitcoin's supposed to be trustless, right? So user culture needs to change to not always running an update unless they really need to, because that will be a check and balance of developers trying to change code and you not knowing if it's good or bad code.
So do you expect any hard fork to happen ever again or anytime soon?
I mean, yes, no, who cares?
So that's it's irrelevant.
Yeah, because that's how hard forks work. Is if you change the rules and the network doesn't agree with you, you get ejected, and now you're on a new fork. And so you could think of every single shitcoin as a Bitcoin fork. They're all Bitcoins. They're just all Bitcoins that disagree with the original Bitcoin, and they're incompatible. So if you could make this incompatible by mistake, you could make it on purpose, you could make it by misjudging what Bitcoiners actually agree to. There's all kinds of reasons it could happen, but so will it happen? Yeah, it'll happen by mistake, probably. And then people will get mad and they'll argue about which one is the real one. Who knows? It'll happen on purpose because of scammers. It's not really relevant as long as you know which one you care about.
So seems like hard fork is less of a concern, but soft forks?
Soft forks are a concern because they become hard over time. Basically, in order for you to keep validating the blockchain, you have to now support more and more new rules to fully check everything. And this has a kind of hardening effect and a complexity effect, which means you have a harder attack surface to actually assess. And the amount of people capable and willing to assess it gets smaller the more complicated you make it. So yeah, soft forks, I think the culture of core, at least the outside of maintainers, I don't know about the maintainers. We do have some new ones that have come through the past year or so. I haven't been paying attention closely. But the culture of people in the mailing list, they're feeling a little bit of FOMO for shitcoin sometimes, and feeling like Bitcoin needs a lot more features and a lot more capabilities. But every time you speculatively take a risk for Bitcoin, you're actually in some abstract way debasing the current users to have the chance of generating more users or more transactions. And that is speculation, and if you are wrong, then you actually just debase the current users, and so it's risky.
I think we've seen that the altcoins sort of have more features, but maybe these features don't really have long-term value.
They don't need a block, and these features don't really need a blockchain in most cases, and probably all cases. And so every complexity is heavier weight, and so the more features is kind of like worse. It's like you want Bitcoin to be as simple and as lightweight and streamlined as possible. You want it to be a precision instrument that only does the most abstract thing, so that it's compatible with the most use cases. If you start making it more rules and more complex, you stiffen, you harden it to be able to only serve certain purposes.
Right. So while altcoins have come up with all this stuff, Bitcoin has also been built on top. Could you give an overview of what's going on, like Lightning, your project?
An overview of what's going on with Lightning. So I think right now the hottest thing, or one of the things coming up, is like they're trying to add Taproot support and PTLC channels. This is actually another interesting, should have been controversial thing, but really wasn't because people don't understand. But it kind of forks the compatibility of the network. You kind of some channels will work with others and some won't work. And this is like, while it doesn't fork Bitcoin, it does create problems in Lightning. And we've seen that recently there have been some like bugs found with LND, and there will probably be bugs found with other things that have like made a lot of the network go offline. So Lightning's still in a state where it needs to become more secure and more streamlined, and so this is a problem across layers as well. Our company, what we're doing is at the moment we have a product called BlockTank, which is an LSP service, and this allows people to have an easier time integrating Lightning and an easier time getting connecting to the network without having to know as much technically or be responsible for as much. So it's attempting to improve the user experience and usability of Lightning. We've integrated that into a new wallet that we just released called Bitkit, and so Bitkit supports Bitcoin, Lightning. For Lightning, it actually has a node inside the wallet. It's an implementation of LDK, the Lightning Development Kit. So we've implemented that so you can hold your own keys for Lightning as well. And then it also supports an implementation of our protocol for the web called /tags. And we have like various features that we've added to Bitkit that are very unique to wallets, and we've combined these capabilities with Bitcoin to show how you can create cooler user experiences and better usability to do things like pay to contacts and abstract all these different payment methods just to one, user key that you can pay to. We have widgets and data feeds and profiles and all these cool things. So you can check all this stuff out at bitkit.to is the website. And then /tags, our protocol, we released the first version of our SDK, so people can now play with all this underlying tech to create more features and more capabilities for their own apps.
Thanks a lot. And we're here at the conference in El Salvador. How do you experience it? How do you enjoy it?
It's great. It's a long way from home, I think, for a lot of us, so it's a big trip. But it's always great to meet up with Bitcoiners and argue and debate different things and just get excited. But yeah, it's really nice to see everybody at these conferences. I enjoy it.
Thanks a lot for your time, John, and best of success. Well done.
Thank you.